Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming this evening. I will go ahead and I will call our meeting to order here this evening at 6 p.m. Just a few quick housekeeping things before we get into the meeting. We do have a muster point should we have the need to evacuate. That is located across the street to the south at the Potters Guild. Our bathrooms are located outside the council doors and to the right down the hallway. If we need to exit, out the council chamber doors to the left and out the front entrance. And as a reminder, please silence your cell phones should you have them on. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Justin Laurie. I'm a councillor here with the town of Stony Plain. And I will ask for my board members to make an introduction. I will start on my left with Laura Lee.
Hi, my name is Laura Lee. I don't know what else you want me to say. Laura Lee Johnson, as the nameplate says.
Thank you.
My name is Nico Weingarten. I'm in my third year of my first term on the SDAB, and I've also served 6 years on the Municipal Planning Commission.
Thank you.
I'm Donna Hayward, and this is my first year of my first term.
Excellent, thank you. And I'll also ask our administration to make introductions, including our legal counsel.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lorraine Ellis, and I am the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board Clerk.
Okay, and Janice Agrius, and I'm the lawyer for the board.
Our recording secretary as well? Excellent, thank you very much. And just a reminder to all of our administration as well as board members, when you are speaking, if you can lean in to speak into the microphone, just the way the acoustics work in the room, it's much easier for everybody to hear. So thank you very much. With that, moving on to the agenda package that we have in front of us this evening, I'm going to ask if there are any objections to the agenda package as we get an Alberta emergency alert. Never a dull moment. So I will ask, other than the Alberta emergency alert, if there are any objections to our agenda. Excellent. Seeing none, I will look to administration. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda package?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, we do not have any.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And finally, is there anyone who would like to request a postponement of the hearing? Seeing none, I'll look to the members of the board for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Mr. Margaret, thank you very much. And we'll call that to question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Before we get into the hearing, we do have a little bit of business that we need to take care of. The first on the agenda is a nomination and the election of our vice chair. So with that, I will look to the board members to see if there are any nominations for our vice chair position. Mr. Wenger?
I'll volunteer for the position.
You'd like to self-nominate yourself for the position?
Yep.
Excellent, thank you very much. As per process, we do have to ask multiple times, so I will go on to a first call. Are there any additional nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, on to a second call. Any additional nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, finally a third call. Any additional nominations for vice chair? Excellent. Thank you very much. Can I have a motion that nominations for vice chair cease? Donna, thank you very much. And with that, then, we only have one nomination. Mr. Weingarten nominated himself. And so I would look for a motion to elect Mr. Weingarten as the vice chair of the SDAB. Donald Moose, thank you very much. And with that, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, and congratulations. The next item on our agenda is the adoption of the minutes from our last SDAB hearing on August 6th, 2020. It has been a little while. Those minutes were included in the agenda package for everyone, and I will look to the board members to see if they have any questions, comments, or have noticed any errors or clerical errors or omissions in that package. Seeing none then, I will ask for a motion to adopt the minutes from the previous meeting. Laura Lee, thank you very much. And we'll call that to question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is carried unanimously. That brings us to number 6 of our agenda, where I will outline the hearing process for all those in attendance tonight. So the SDAB hearings are considered a quasi-judicial hearing and will be conducted accordingly. This hearing can only consider evidence presented at this hearing. The board cannot accept any presentations or letters after the close of the hearing. The hearing is being recorded, and anything that is said during the hearing will become part of the minutes and of the permanent record. The board will hear from the Development Authority and/or administration first, and the board will then hear evidence from those affected by the appeal, in the following order. The appellant who submitted the appeal opposed to the variance, if they choose to speak. Those in favor of the appellant opposed to the variance. The applicant in favor of the variance. Those in favor of the applicant or in favor of support of the variance. And the applicant and the appellant will be provided closing statements before the hearing is adjourned. The board will take the opportunity to ask questions in between each speaker. Please keep presentations to approximately 5 minutes and speak clearly into the microphone. However, if you do require more time to complete your presentation, it will be granted. Ensure all comments are directed through the chair. And if your concerns have already been voiced by someone else, please limit your presentation to new evidence only. Please provide a copy of any notes or pictures that have not previously been submitted to the SDAB clerk for inclusion in the official record. At the end of the hearing, the Subdivision Development and Appeal Board may uphold the decision of the Development Authority denying the appeal, refuse the development permit upholding the appeal, and/or add conditions to the development permit. Does anyone, either board members or in the gallery, have any questions or concerns with the process as outlined? Excellent. Seeing none, we will then move on to item 7 of the agenda for the public hearing, and I will ask the SDAB clerk to please announce the appeal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Announcing the appeal for a discretionary use variance for development permit number 2021-0249, location 6 Rosenthal Way, Plan 9223016, Lot 11. Proposed development, major home occupation, dog obedience training, behavior consulting, service dog training, guardian dog training. Relaxation to allow the home occupation to occupy 100 meters squared of the total gross floor area, or 20%, which exceeds the maximum occupiable area of 40 meters squared. Relaxation to allow portions of the major home occupation to be conducted outside.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Before we get underway, I do have to ask questions of the appellant, the applicant, and the audience. Is the appellant present? Excellent. Thank you very much. Do you object to any of the present board members, the SDAB clerk, or the recording secretary hearing this appeal? No. Thank you. Is the applicant present? Do you object to any of the present board members, the SDAB clerk, or the recording secretary hearing this appeal? No, I do not. Thank you. And to the remainder of the gallery or audience, do any of you object to any present board members, the SDAB clerk, or the recording secretary hearing this appeal? If so, please raise your hand. Excellent. Thank you very much. Moving on. Board members. Have any of the board members been in contact with anyone affected by this appeal, visited the site in question, or feel they should be excused from this hearing for any reason such as conflict of interest or pecuniary interest? Seeing none, thank you very much. And I believe we have our development authority on us virtually. Excellent. So I will call upon the development authority to now proceed with their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Kathy Kazar. I was the development officer who reviewed the development permit in question. I'm just going to summarize my report, which you've all received, and then I'll take any questions when I'm finished. The town received a development permit application on November 9th, 2021 for the proposed home-based business at 6 Rosenthal Way. The development permit 2021-D0249 for a major home occupation was conditionally approved on December 13th, 2021. The conditional approval includes the provision of dog training and consulting services, including medical service dog training, obedience training, guardian dog training, and dog behavior consulting, as well as construction of custom dog crates, a variance to the maximum area allowed to be occupied by the home occupation, and a variance to allow training and exercise activities to take place outdoors. The decision of the Development Authority has been appealed, and that's why we're all here. The subject lands are located at 6 Rosenthal Way, Plan 9223016, Lot 11, in the Rosenthal Estates Subdivision, which is a residential subdivision located on the west side of Stony Plain, bordered by 79th Avenue to the south and Range Road 12 to the west. The lots within Rosenthal Estates are all plus or minus 10 acres. As well, all the properties adjacent to Rosenthal Estates are largely agricultural. During the review of the development permit application, I found that the property is within the land use bylaw FD Future Development District. The principal use is residential. The property is 11.7 acres in area with a detached dwelling, attached garage, and other small accessory buildings. Portions of the property are already fenced. Due to the nature of the business and potential impacts on adjacent landowners, I determined that the home-based business would be classified as a major home occupation, which is a discretionary use in the FD district. The property can easily accommodate additional parking that's required for a major home occupation. The applicant's primary service is the training of medical service dogs, whereby the dogs remain in their care for 3 to 12 months. Other services provided are, what we've been through them, the obedience training, the home guardian training, and board and train services, as well as custom dog crates. The maximum number of client dogs proposed to be on site at any one time is 10 plus 2 of their own. The dogs will be kept indoors and crated in the home or garage and will not be left unattended or unsupervised. Training and exercise will take place outside 1 to 2 hours a day. Barking will be strictly controlled and monitored. The yard is fenced with a 5-foot chain link fence and electric gate. Dog waste is to be cleaned up daily. And again, the 2 variances that are required, one to relax the maximum square meters that's allowed to be occupied by a home occupation from 40 square meters to 100 square meters, which is approximately 20% of the buildings on the site, as well as the land use bylaw requires that home occupations are to be conducted solely indoors, and portions of the applicant's services will be required to be conducted outdoors. The rationale for the decision to conditionally approve this application include the following. Home occupations are supported within the town's municipal development plan. The land use bylaw FD district allows major home occupations as a discretionary use. The property is located on a residential acreage on 11 acres with immediate access to 79th Avenue. The property has ample parking for visiting clients. Traffic impact will be minimal given the limitations provided within the conditions of approval, As well, the primary business activity of training service dogs requires dogs to remain in the applicant's care for several months and does not involve regular client visits. The training of medical service dogs is the primary business activity. The other training services are minimal. Medical service dogs are obedient, not aggressive, and do not vocalize or bark. The fence training agility exercise area is located on the southeast corner of the property away from the adjacent dwellings. Dogs are not kenneled outdoors. The business plan indicates dogs will be kept indoors and crated in the home or garage when they're not open and in the evenings. Training and exercise will take place outside 1 to 2 hours per day. Dogs will not be left unattended or unsupervised. Barking will be strictly controlled and monitored. There is a 5-foot chain link fence and electric gate, and dog waste will be cleaned daily. Conditions of the approval can be constructed to limit the number of dogs on site, number of client visits, hours of operation, types of services that are allowed to minimize the impacts to adjacent residents. Change in intensity or services provided is subject to further development permit review and approval. As well, the land use bylaw allows the development authority to impose as a condition of a development permit a specified time limit on the duration of a development permit approval. And in this case, we have given it a 2-year time frame whereby it will expire after 2 years and the applicant would have to reapply. In conclusion, the decision of the Development Authority was made based on the information provided in the Holdfast Canine Business Plan and the Home Occupation Questionnaire submitted by the applicant on November 9th, as well as their willingness to compromise and be amenable to development permit conditions intended to mitigate impacts to adjacent residents. The applicant has taken considerable care to address the concerns of the adjacent residents within their business plan. The conditions of approval were carefully constructed to address the potential impacts to adjacent residents. As well, the conditions of approval and the provision of an expiry date provided clear limitations and expectations to the applicant. Non-compliance with the land use bylaw regulations and conditions of a development permit approval are enforceable under the land use bylaw and can result in suspension or revocation of a development permit, penalties, and issuance of an order under the Municipal Government Act. A history of complaints and non-compliance during the 2-year period that the development permit is active will impact a future application for the home-based business to continue. That concludes my comments.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your comments. And with that, then, we will move into any questions from the board members. And I will start to my left. Ms. Johnson, do you have any questions for the Development Authority?
I did have a question about, there's one place where it says that the owner would keep the dogs from barking. I was wondering what the methods to keep the dogs from barking is.
Through the chair, I think that the applicant will be better suited to answer this question. However, again, the primary service that he is proposes to provide from the property is the medical service dog training. These dogs are strictly trained and highly disciplined, and they're just not your typical household dog that's going to be at the window barking. So they also won't be left outside unattended. They'll be monitored at all times.
Thank you very much. Ms. Johnson, any other questions? Mr. Weingarten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To you, to the Development Officer. On page 20 of 83, you indicate that the total area proposed to be occupied by the home occupation is 100 square meters, which is approximately 20% of the gross floor area. Can you give me the calculations, or how did you calculate that 20%?
The calculation was based on the information provided by the applicant, where the total building areas on the property is approximately 371 square meters. And they propose to utilize approximately 100 square meters of the total building area for a total of 20%.
Okay, my calculator indicates that 100 square meters of 371 square meters is 26.95%. Can you, am I missing something?
We might both be missing something. I would have to verify that he included all of the buildings on the site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weingarten. Any other questions? Do you have any other
No,
questions?
no, sorry, thank you.
Ms. Hayward, any questions for the Development Authority?
I do not.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Just a question for confirmation and clarity to the Development Authority. You mentioned that there is 5-foot chain link fencing with an electric gate on the property. Is that fencing encompassing the entire property, or is that a section of the property?
It's not the entire property, it's a section of the property.
Are you able to describe to us what section of the property that is?
I believe the applicant included it in his application, which would be page. Just need to scroll through it. It's a little grainy, but it'd be page 36 of 83.
Yes, and I've seen that map, and it is definitely grainy. I'm wondering if, I don't know if you have a better resolution picture of that. Are you able to verbalize and describe the area? Or would we be better off to ask the applicant when it is his turn?
Can definitely ask the applicant. It appears that it encompasses the area around to the north of the detached garage, southward, past the dwelling, and then back to Rosenthal Way.
If I may, Kathy, I could bring up an aerial just to demonstrate where the fencing is.
Sure, that would be excellent.
We are receiving a color photograph now that outlines that here in Chambers from the applicant. So we do have a much better image now that does show that fencing. So thank you very much for providing that. And this documentation will be entered into the official record for the meeting. Excellent, thank you. Excellent. That concludes the questions that I have. I will just look back to the board quickly to see if there are any other questions for our Development Authority before we move on. Excellent. Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation this evening. Does administration have anything to add to the Development Authority's presentation?
Mr. Chair, at this point, I do not believe so.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Moving on. We do have the appellant with us this evening. Does the appellant wish to speak this evening? You do not? Thank you very much. So we have received the appeal in the package. I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling to our page to call attention to it. And And that is on page 74 of 83 of the package. So I know all members of the board have reviewed that already, but just again to call your attention to that. Moving on with the appellant not speaking, do we have anybody else in the gallery that is in favor of the appeal put forward? Seeing none, we'll move on. At this time, the applicant is present with us. Do you wish to speak this evening? Okay, I'd ask you to proceed to the front. Again, please speak clearly into the microphone when you are up at the front so that everybody may hear you appropriately, and go ahead to proceed with your presentation when you are ready.
Is it okay if I remove my mask?
Yes.
So thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board for letting me speak today. I feel a little bad for Kathy because when I submitted my development application, I didn't understand the square footage part of the application, and now I'm hearing about it. Because I'm building custom dog crates and there's an existing garage where that would happen, I kind of factored in that entire building as part of what I would be doing, and then I just thought, you know, dogs will be living in the house with me in the bedroom. I took the square footage of those rooms as well. So I'm not really sure if that's an accurate count for that square footage. Right now, there's no plans to actually add anything additional there right now. Just make use of what's on the property. So hopefully that creates some clarity, I hope. Regards to barking, one of the questions that was asked earlier by Laura Lee, you know, the thing with dogs, dogs bark. That is how they speak. Service dogs, we do not promote barking at all, even for an alert, for medical services. When you get into other types of dogs, barking does happen, so I don't want to say that you'll never hear a bark come out of that property. It's going to happen, but I can guarantee you it is very closely monitored. I'm living right now in St. Albert. I have 7 dogs in my house there, and I haven't had one complaint in 4 years. In a residential subdivision. The problem is right now I am over my dog limit. That is why I'm looking to purchase an acreage to continue my business. With regards to the fencing, the air photo that I gave you, that fencing was given to me by my realtor that I'm looking at for the property. I haven't walked that property because I don't own it yet. I'm just kind of checking all my boxes here before I put an offer on that property. I want to make sure I can do what I want to do there without upsetting anybody. I do believe there's a mixture of chain link fence, post and beam fence, and page wire. But I mean, I am obviously willing to work with the development authority. If there's additional fencing that needs to go up, then that's the nature of the business I'm in, and I'm 100% online with doing that. So. When it comes to dog training, I guess I would just go briefly. I manage a charity right now, Courageous Companions. I'm the executive director. We train medical service dogs for veterans and first responders. That's primarily what I'm going to say is 90% of my business is going to be that. I work as a service dog trainer for MSAR service dogs. And the guardian dog thing I know creates a lot of confusion with people. They think these dogs are going to be running amok. I can guarantee you that is not the case. Like right now in this room, there's about $50,000 worth of dog between my dog and my friend Shirley's in the back. So at any given time, one of these dogs is worth about $20,000. You don't want them running around loose, you know, chewing things, eating things where they could medically be removed from their service. So they are never, ever outside unless somebody is outside with them. When I go in, they all come in with me. As for the guardian dogs, that's a little different. We're not talking a police dog here that's going to track, trail, take down, and bite, and then go back, live in its crate. A home guardian dog has to be extremely social like this and turn it on when on command. So it's a little bit different, but I don't really see that being a big part of my business. If anything, I would do maybe one of those dogs a year. That would be it. I am working with another organization right now to train anti-poaching tracking dogs for the Angava Conservation Area in South Africa. And that's going to be a contract of 4 dogs a year for the next 10 years. But I'm not sure if I'm going to be one of the ones training one of those dogs, but there could be some training going on in those 11 acres where we're tracking for rhino horn and elephant tusks and things like that. But that's about the nature of the working dog side. It's very minimal. So hopefully that answers everyone's questions. And in closing, I would say I'm not just some guy that came off the street and likes dogs and calls himself a dog trainer. I am extremely educated in this behavior. I've completed a 4-year master dog training program with MSAR service dogs. I've just started my working dog practicum. When I'm concluded that's going to take me 2 years, then I will be a certified master dog trainer with them. I'm also certified in all kinds of other areas: dog behavior, methodology, canine reactive behavior, canine fear, anxiety, dogs working with children. I'm certified to train medical service dogs. So this isn't just like a little hobby thing that I'm doing. This is in actual fact my retirement job. I was in the Army for 30 years, and then I worked in a municipal engineering department for 13 years. This is kind of like my retirement job, I guess. So that's kind of, I got the best job in the world. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Do you have anything else to add to your presentation?
No, unless anyone has any questions specifically they'd like to ask me. I'm here to answer whatever.
Definitely. So we'll move to the board for questions. We'll start on this side with Ms. Hayward. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes, you mentioned that you would put in additional fencing. Is that available to where the dogs would be, I guess, loose to be able to relieve themselves?
I'm sorry, I can hardly hear you.
Sorry. You had mentioned that you would do additional fencing.
Yep.
Would this be, put up before you move in so that, if the, like where the dogs would go in like a dog run type of situation where they would relieve themselves? Is that possible to have that in place? Just then because I see your fencing only is like the fenced dog training agility area, but then you have your outlier, but then just kind of just concentrated in one space, so it's sort of like a dog run, so to speak?
Yeah, I don't use dog runs because dog runs will create a reactive dog for you, an aggressive dominant dog, so we don't use dog runs.
Okay.
Right now, I would probably ask the development authority, I would move in, I would assess, because I'm not really sure how I'm going to use that property exactly yet. I do know the entire yard, about probably, I'm going to guess about 2 acres, I believe, is already chain link fenced in blue. That is completely chain link fenced, and I would probably limit my first year to working in there until I determined what was required. Right now, the only plan is would be to fence the entire perimeter. One of the reasons I'm looking at moving is because right now I'm driving 30 minutes one way every day to run dogs. Because these are medical service dogs, they cannot go to a dog park. So I have to drive outside into Sturgeon County. I run them about 5 kilometers and then we go home. So right now the plan would be to run the perimeter of my property a couple times, probably twice a day. And that's where I would determine where the fencing, and appropriate fencing I would add to. I was told by someone, I apologize, I don't remember their name. I've talked to quite a few people. I think it's the fence along the north end, I believe, is like a post and beam fence. So there would have to be something done there, probably some type of page wire or something to keep dogs from going under the fence or whatever. But right now I'm running dogs every day. I don't have any issues with them taking off, running to investigate as we run by farms, dogs come out and all these dogs are trained we don't let them play. They're allowed to interact and socialize, but there's no playing allowed. And because if you let them play, then they're going to want to go see what those other dogs are doing. So I don't have that problem right now when I'm running them, but for fencing, that's what I would do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Ms. Hayward? Seeing none? Mr. Weingarten, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Dugas. This is really quite interesting, I find. But I have a couple of questions. I'm assuming that with the medical service dog, that you don't shout at them. That assumes to me that that's not.
That's correct. You may hear, like if I'm outside and one of them is picking something up there, I may yell at them like, hey, stop, drop, or open.
So how loud would your commands be to your dogs when you're
Probably
out
if we're getting into the guardian dog thing, there may be some loud discussions going on, because those dogs, you need to really be firm with them. But I mean, with the medical service dogs, maybe some running. You may hear a little bit of loud speaking on the run when I'm trying to keep them all in check from wandering away, things like that. There may be a little bit of loud talking going on there to be overheard over the sound of a quad or a side-by-side or something, whatever I choose to run them with.
Okay, they would hear that over above that noise.
That's correct,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Okay, so now you're allowed to have, by your development permit, you're allowed to have 10 dogs on site. And the permit allows you to exercise and train them for 2 hours a day. Do you have all 10 dogs with you at the same time?
No, I would. The only time they would all be with me during the day, if I had 10. Now, I don't think I will ever have a total of 10 there, because that's a lot to manage. You know, right now, I could see that, and this includes my own dogs. I have my own service dog, and I have a retired service dog that was removed from service because she got injured. And I have my own protection dog that I started my practicum training. So I actually have 3 dogs. It would probably be one at a time during training. So we would be outside one dog at a time training, doing whatever. Right now, the way this house is designed, there's a flex room, it's called. It used to be an attached double garage, but they turned it into a flex room. And right now, my initial plan is to turn that into my indoor training area for the dogs. So we would practice things like sit, come, stay, all those basic commands. Then we would move that outside with more distractions and things like that. The only time all those dogs would be with me in one group is when we're running them. And generally, when we run them, they're so busy running, they're not worried about getting into anything else. But a tired dog is a good dog, so.
Yeah, right. But my question is that, again, the development permit allows you 10 hours a day. And if you have 10 dogs, they require 2 hours a day for exercise and training. You're going to run short of time.
Yeah, I think each dog maybe would get 1 hour. So a lot of people underestimate, this is the reason with medical service dogs it's so critical. We do what they call anchor dog training. So like my dog here would be considered an anchor dog. Other dogs would emulate his behaviors. They would learn to be calm, learn to settle. They would just mimic those behaviors they see in the senior dogs. So that's why it's really important for them to live in, I don't want to say a pack, but that's really what it is you would have 3 or 4 living in the house. I get a lot of people come to visit me and they're quite shocked that, you know, there's 6 or 7 dogs in the house and you don't even know they're there. They're all just laying on their beds. Other when someone rings the doorbell, all hell breaks loose for about 30 seconds and then we get that sorted out, but alert barking is pretty hard to stop, so. Does that answer your question? I kind of.
Well, yeah, for sure,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, because I was just kind of wondering, you know, if you have 10 dogs and they require 2 hours a day each, and you take them out individually.
Yeah, so what I think a lot of people underestimate is just when we're sitting at home watching TV at night, that's not really formal training, but that's training because we're teaching the dog, we're programming that dog to do what these dogs are doing right now is they're settling. Like a medical service dog's life is spent waiting. They always have to wait. So that's where you kind of drive into them. There's no moving around, wandering around the house, because that leads to territorial type of aggression behaviors that could happen if you let them patrol your house, things like that. So they usually have 3 to 4 spots on beds, and you go lay down there and you stay there until I tell you to move.
So the 1 hour training is indoors?
Could be indoors. It goes on throughout the entire day. I guess the outside or inside the garage, that would be actual formal training. That's where I'm taking one dog with a bag of treats and we're going to practice some stuff. But the majority of that training is in public. So I would be leaving, going, you know, into the city to train at malls, hardware stores, places like that, because that's where the dog needs to perform. The home part is actually the easiest part, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Mongarden?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, any questions?
Nope, they were covered.
Excellent, thank you. So I do have one question.
Okay.
You mentioned currently you're in St. Albert and you have 7 dogs and you are over the limit of dogs.
Mm-hmm.
This permit obviously is considering being issued with several restrictions.
Yeah.
If you're currently over your limit right now in St. Albert, what assurances would there be that you would not exceed the limit provided in this permit?
In the 3 years I've been doing this, I've never gone over 7. That's been the maximum I've had, and that's been for, I think I've had a total of 7. Sorry, I misinformed you at the beginning. I only have, I will have 6 starting next week, because I'm watching another service dog for somebody as they go away. But I mean, 10, including my dogs, that's a lot of dogs for me. I don't really have a desire to have like a kennel. That's the other misunderstanding, is a lot of people think this is like a kennel, but it is not. A kennel has runs, dogs are left outside, they bark all day, you hear that. That is not the case here. These dogs are inside. What assurance I could give you is, I guess, just my word that I would not go over whatever they deem as the applicable amount that I'm supposed to have. So the more I have, the more, I know it's more revenue, but it's also more work as well. And I'm in the process of slowing down my life, not really picking it up. So.
Thank you. And you mentioned for running the dogs that you often use a quad or a side-by-side.
That's correct.
How often a day do you run the dogs? What would be the approximate amount of time?
So I think right now on this property, I did, with using Google Earth, I did a basic track around the property, and starting in the driveway, going around, I think it's about 1.1 kilometers. So I would probably do that twice a day. So I would run them 2 laps in the morning, and then I would run them again in the just before dinner, another 2 kilometers probably. So that would be 2 laps around the property on a quad twice a day. Right now I'm because I got to drive. They get the whole thing in one shot, so I don't have to drive back up there. But and then even running them every day, sometimes you don't want to do that. It all depends on the weather as well. I don't need all these soaking wet dogs coming into the house thing. So there's days they won't get run, but primarily their exercise will be milling around the backyard with me throwing a ball or a Kong. That's another form of exercise that we do as well. So I like that one. It's a little more fun, engaging.
And so time-wise, to complete 2 laps of that property, the speed of the dogs?
Probably 15, 20 minutes.
15 to 20 minutes
Yeah.
of time.
Yeah. I'm running them right now 5 kilometers outside my truck, and that's taking me 15 minutes. So I'm just assuming with the terrain on a quad, it might be a little slower, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think that covers all the questions that I have. I'll just look back to the board quickly to see if there are any other questions. Seeing none. Excellent. Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. I appreciate it.
I have a magazine for each of you if you like.
Yep, should be able to.
It's for the charity we manage, but it's also, you never know, you might find somebody who wants to donate some money. Do you have enough? Yeah, I got 2 more there. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And administration, are we cleaning the speaking station between? Yes. We'll just take a quick minute here while we're waiting for that. Excellent. Thank you very much. At this time, we will give an opportunity for any of those in favor of the applicant to speak. Is there anybody here in favor of the applicant that would like to speak this evening? Yes, please come up. And could I have you just start with your name once you've seated?
Yes. I'm Dr. Lori Gabori,
Lori?
and I'm a resident at Rosenthal Estates. So I would be a neighbor to John if he was to live there.
Excellent.
I just want to take a moment to say that there were concerns initially when we heard of this development permit based on everything that obviously was presented here. But in the same manner that John presented here, we really did have our concerns addressed and reassured, very much through that very detailed development application, as well as some neighbors, I'm speaking on their behalf, having personal conversations with John. And I had been looking at his work online through LinkedIn and so on. In gathering all of that information and thinking about it, I am a clinical psychologist with the Stollery Children's Hospital. And obviously the work of emotional and mental health is very important. And myself and my husband would be more than pleased to welcome John and the work that he is doing that obviously would benefit children and adults and families in these domains of emotional and mental and physical health. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And just before you step down, I'd just like to ask if there are any questions from any of the board members. We'll start with Ms. Johnson. Mr. Rungard.
Thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Ms. Hayward.
Great.
And I don't have any either. Thank you very much for your comments
you.
this evening. Is there anyone else in the gallery in favor of the applicant that would like to speak? Yes, please come forward. And again, once you're at the microphone, if you can please clearly state your name so that can be recorded for the record.
Roger that, sir. Good evening. I'm Sergeant Shirley Jew. I actually live just around the corner from here on 40 Ave. I've been in Stony Plain since 2014. I'm the one who got John into the program.
If we could just have you speak a little bit more into the mic so that everybody can hear you.
I got John into the service dog program with Mia. Since that time, I've seen him grow to a level that I'm very proud to call him my brother from another mother. Now, the advantage he has is if he moves here, with me living as close as I am, I'll be out there to give him assistance anytime he needs it. So my position with the service dogs is I'm the national tester for Canadian Association of Service Dog Trainers, national tester for Courageous Companions, and MSAR service dogs. So if you guys have any concerns about the quality and the work we do with our service dogs, I've been in the program for almost 9 years. They saved my life. For the doctor that was just been, well, we donated a service dog or a facility dog to the OSI clinic recently, and Moses is completing his transition towards his handler who actually lives in Spruce Grove. So yeah, there's a, I moved here because I needed a safe place to live. So if you guys are concerned about John handling all these dogs by himself, he has a great deal of support from the organization.
Excellent. Thank you. And if you can just remain, we'll just quickly go through the board members to see if they have any questions. Start Ms. Hayward. Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Mungard.
No, again, thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Ms. Johnson.
No.
Excellent. Thank you, Shirley, for your comments this evening. I will call again. Are there any of those in favor of the applicant that would like to speak this evening? Seeing none, we will move on. The next step, we will ask the applicant. Do you have any closing comments that you would like to present to the board? I do not. You do not? Thank you very much. And we'll go to the appellant. I know you've got your opportunity to speak earlier. I'm just wondering at this point in time, do you have any comments that you'd like to say to the board? Okay, please come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. Marcel Fontaine. No, this has been informative. It's calmed some other concerns. And I've spoke to John, I had called him. In the beginning, there was no number to get a hold of. It only had the lot number on application. So I hadn't heard from anybody, so I came here and I put the appeal in. So I had a chance to find out some information. 'Cause we got it late in the mail, and we only had a few days to look at it. So I talked to John, and everything he said on the phone is what he said here. So I got a better feeling, and this has been quite informative. So I, at this time, have no objection. The only question I would have after being through here would be, how is it handled with the residential dogs that might come around with the fence? I imagine keeps them in, keeps them out. It would be the only thought that came to mind as I was listening through.
Definitely.
That's all I got to say.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for taking the opportunity this evening. Can we do questions at that point in time if there are any? This is closing comment. Okay, so if you don't mind, we'll just give a quick opportunity for the board members if they do have any questions of you. Ms. Hayward?
The comment you made about the residential dogs coming closer near the property, wouldn't the residential dogs have to be under the care of their owners as well?
Well, I understand that, but they're more able to run free quite often than he's got trained dogs. They're not trained like his dogs would be. So that's the only thing that came to mind that I think could be a problem, because with the dogs at that training level, I don't see being a problem after sitting through here and talking to John. But
thank you.
That's all I was getting at.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Weingart?
No questions.
No questions? Ms. Johnson? Just for a second for process, I see Mr. Dewis has his hand up. Are we able to allow him to address that? Yes? Perfect. Would you like to address that?
So what I would do if I was running dogs around the perimeter of the property, if, let's say on the north end, let's say obviously it's the first couple of times you do it, that's when you're going to find out you have a problem maybe with an adjacent landowner's dog starting to draw your dogs. I'm not a big fan of fence fighting and things like that. So I would probably just avoid that side. I would probably have a standoff. I mean, it is almost 12 acres, so I could, stay 100 meters away from the fence as I go by. And right now, I'm running my dogs every day. There's about 6 farms I go by. They all have 2 to 3 dogs on them. One of the properties is problematic. The dogs actually will leave the property and wait on the road for us. So that's usually where I end my run. I stop and go with the truck and we go by. But I would just try to stay away from that area. I think just to don't get the temptation.
Thank you. Mr. Fontaine, any other comments?
No, the reason I made that comment is my daughter's dog sometimes has caused some issues in the neighborhood. So I know my side isn't not flawless. So we're working on it. And that's the only reason I had the question.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mr. Fontaine.
All good?
Yeah.
All right.
So with that then, I will just ask individually to the applicant first. Do you have any concerns with the hearing that has gone on this evening?
No, I do.
Thank you. And to the appellant, do you have any concerns with the hearing that has gone on this evening?
No, my first time.
Excellent. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to thank our administration. I'd like to thank the applicant, the appellant, and the gallery members for the participation in this hearing. In accordance with the provincial legislation, the board is required to hand down a decision within 15 days from the date of today's hearing. No decision is binding on the board until it issues the written decision. And correct me if I'm wrong, that written decision will be posted online and it will be delivered to the applicant and the appellant?
That is correct.
Excellent. So with that, that brings the close to this portion of the hearing. And thank you all very much for attending this evening. And we'll give a few minutes recess here for the gallery to be excused, and then the board will reconvene to discuss.